In the early months of 1960, a wave of change was sweeping across the African continent. Nation after nation was on the cusp of independence, a new era of freedom and self-determination dawning. It was against this dramatic backdrop of political and social transformation that one of the 20th century's most influential religious figures, Billy Graham, embarked on a historic 3-month tour. At 41 years old, Graham was already a global phenomenon, known for his large-scale crusades that drew hundreds of thousands. But this trip to Africa would be different. It wasn't just about preaching. It was about listening, learning, and witnessing a continent in the midst of a profound awakening. Graham, a tall, striking figure, arrived in Liberia in January 1960, the first stop on a grueling 16-country tour. The journey would take him from the West African coast, through the heart of the continent, and down to the south, covering thousands of miles by plane, car, and sometimes even on foot. He wasn't just speaking in massive stadiums in the capital cities. He made it a point to travel to remote villages, to meet people where they were, to understand their hopes and their struggles firsthand. He saw a continent stirring, not just politically, but spiritually. As he traveled, he often remarked that the conditions were ripe for a spiritual revival, that the hunger for independence was matched by a deep spiritual hunger. In Liberia, he was welcomed by President William Tubman. He preached in Monrovia's largest stadium, but also in smaller towns. The crowds were a vibrant mix of people from all walks of life: government officials, students, market women, and farmers. His message was simple and direct, focusing on themes of hope, reconciliation, and personal transformation. He spoke of a faith that transcended race, politics, and social status, a message that resonated powerfully in a continent grappling with its new identity. From Liberia, he flew to Ghana, a nation that had just gained its independence 3 years prior, under the leadership of Kwame Nkrumah. The atmosphere was electric with national pride and optimism. Here, Graham met with Nkrumah and other political leaders, engaging in conversations about the future of the nation and the role of faith in building a new society. He spoke to a massive crowd in Accra, where his call for unity and a shared sense of purpose was met with an enthusiastic response. The images from this time are striking. Graham, a white American evangelist, standing before thousands of black Africans, all listening intently, united by a shared moment of spiritual reflection. The tour continued into Nigeria, the most populous nation in Africa, which was itself just months away from gaining its own independence. The anticipation was palpable. Graham's team worked tirelessly with local church leaders to organize the events. The logistics were a monumental challenge. In cities like Lagos and Ibadan, the crowds swelled to sizes that were unprecedented for a religious gathering. In one city, the sheer number of people who turned out was so overwhelming that the sound system struggled to reach everyone. Yet, they stayed, straining to hear his words, drawn by the power of his message. It was here that Graham emphasized the importance of African leadership within the church, predicting that the future of Christianity would be powerfully shaped by African believers. One of the most significant aspects of this tour was Graham's unwavering stance against racial segregation. This became particularly evident as he traveled to countries with more entrenched systems of racial division. He was adamant that his meetings be fully integrated. There would be no separate seating, no division based on skin color. This was a non-negotiable principle. In Danshire, this was a radical and often controversial position. In some places, organizers initially hesitant, fearing backlash from the colonial authorities or sections of the white minority population. But Graham held firm. He believed that the message of the gospel was one of radical equality, and that to compromise on this point would be to betray a core tenet of his faith. His visit to southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, was a pivotal moment. The racial tensions there were high. Graham insisted that his crusade in Salisbury, now Harare, be open to all races. He met with both black nationalist leaders and white government officials, urging dialogue and reconciliation. On the platform, he preached with black and white church leaders standing beside him, a powerful visual symbol of the unity he championed. He declared from the pulpit, "The ground is level at the foot of the cross," a phrase that would become a hallmark of his ministry in racially divided societies. He argued that spiritual revival could not be separated from social justice, and that true faith demanded a commitment to breaking down the walls that divide humanity. The journey was not without its challenges. The pace was relentless, with daily travel, meetings, and evening sermons. Graham and his team faced everything from tropical heat and torrential rains to logistical nightmares and political sensitivities. He was physically exhausted, but he described being spiritually energized by what he was witnessing. He kept a detailed journal, recording his observations and conversations. He wrote about the intelligent, dedicated, and consecrated African leaders he met, expressing his profound respect for and his optimism for the future of the church on the continent. He saw that the church in Africa was not a mere outpost of Western missions, but a vibrant, dynamic force with its own unique character and destiny. As the tour drew to a close in the spring of 1960, Graham reflected on the experience. He had spoken to an estimated 2 million people in person, but the numbers were only part of the story. The real impact he felt was in the seeds of hope and unity that had been planted. He left Africa with a renewed conviction that a great spiritual awakening was indeed underway. He had seen it in the packed stadiums, in the quiet villages, in the eyes of the new leaders, and in the hearts of the ordinary people. This Ijoliuling tour, profoundly criterious, Graham himself. It deepened his understanding of global Christianity and solidified his commitment to racial equality. It was a turning point, not just for his ministry, but for the relationship between American evangelicalism and the burgeoning church in Africa. He returned to the United States as a vocal advocate for decolonization and civil rights. His experiences in Africa having given him a new perspective and a new urgency. The legacy of that 3-month journey is still felt today. It helped to foster a generation of African church leaders, empowered local congregations, and demonstrated on a global stage the power of a faith that transcends cultural and racial barriers. It was a moment in time when the winds of political change and the currents of spiritual revival converged. And Billy Graham was there to witness it, to participate in it, and to amplify its message to the world. His 1960 Africa tour remains a landmark event, a testament to a pivotal chapter in the continent's history, and a powerful story of faith in a time of transformation. Thank you for watching, and if you found this story inspiring, please like, share, and subscribe for more content.